Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Go Talk Show with my wonderful host there, Tracy, and myself, Renaé. And you guys know us. And if you don't, go back and watch the first ones. Oh, I do want to say is if you're coming in new to this, we do have in the tabs of YouTube, there's a playlist, and you can click on that and it brings you right from the first one, and it'll just continue to play. I don't know that we would totally recommend that, only because we give you a lot of information and you really need to take it in and let it awaken and help you remember what needs to be remembered. But if you want to do a fast track, that's what you can do. And other than that, just stay following with us. And when we are actually doing these, we do these when we are drawn to do them, when we are really sort of getting that intel to do these. So we might miss a week or something like that. That's your opportunity to put everything that we're saying into effect, to really feel every aspect. So with that being said, let's get into today's episode. And I'm going to read to you something that I channeled this morning when Tracy and I were waiting to get on. And what they're saying it's entitled is A Longing to Remember, to Awaken. We need to shed the sleep masks we wear of victimhood. And there's many different versions of victimhood. So don't just think of one, okay? Many different. So we have to, Jesus, I can't even talk yet. Sleep masks we wear of victimhood and rise into authorship. Now, feel that. Like, do you feel that? The ache in the collective consciousness body to awaken, or the collective body to awaken. Clearly, I'm not doing a good job at reading this. So Tracy and myself and the unnamed presence between us create a field that with every episode, we invite you to listen and awaken. And we're going to ask this question, that what if life wasn't happening to you, but with you? What if every moment was your own handwriting, invisible ink becoming visible when you dare to look? Not to blame, not to awaken, to reclaim the brush in your hand and remember what you came here to paint. We aren't here to teach or convince you of anything. We are here to invite you to feel and awaken. What if we told you life isn't just something happening to you, but something quietly responding to you? Not in a scary, blamey, you manifested this kind of way, but in a gentle, powerful way. The way your inner world, your thoughts, your beliefs, your unspoken stories begin to ripple outward and shape the world around you. We're not taught this. We're taught we're small, powerless, that the world is in chaos and we just have to cope. But what if that's the biggest forgetting of all? What if you're the one holding the brush? What if this whole life is your canvas and every moment is a chance to remember? Not to get it perfect, not to control everything, but to wake up, to start noticing. When I look, I believed I wasn't enough, and now I see it mirrored in my job, in my partner, in my body. And with that noticing, something will soften, something will shift, something opens. That's what this show is for. That's why we're here, to remember together. You're not a victim of this world. You're a co-creator of something extraordinary. Feel that. And Tracy, what do you got for that? Anything?
Well, a couple things. Because Renaé read this to me earlier, and this really highlighted itself to me when I listened again, is I'm sure we're all familiar with the phrase, life's not happening to you, it's happening for you. Now, if you maybe did not notice or did notice, Renaé said it's happening with you. And that is such a huge, beautiful shift that I have not only been increasingly aware of, but also noticed it truly, truly affects how your reality is presenting for you. So it's such a different actioning of you are co-creating with it. So again, if you're saying it's happening for me, it's like, oh, I'm going to show this to you so you can assess, make a decision, and show up differently. Now we're in these energies of, oh, no, 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 it is real-time creation. So I'm going to do this myself. Go back and re-listen. That was the second time I've heard it, and it presented so much more expansively even the second time. So this is huge how we, again, we say the same things. And I know for me, every time I talk about them and hear them, I can see it so much bigger, clearer. And then honestly, really, my world gets more fun, bigger, clearer. So it's, I just want to highlight, pinpoint, exclamation point that life is happening with us. So just chew on that for a while. And I'm going to say it, like I continue to get it. Oh, now I get it. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's always the next level of, oh my gosh, Renae. So that's the first thing I want to say. Unless you got something there, I'm going to jump into the.
No, I just, what they were telling me is, I'm gonna say it here because then I'll remember it later, is to put what I read, because I did a crappy job in the beginning. So put what I read in the description of this. So if anybody wants to copy and paste it out and have it, because I think it's really good to read it as well. Because Tracy, when you just said, like, the second time you heard it, you got things. And even when I was reading it, like, it felt, I don't know, it felt deeper. So I think there's something to that. So I'll put it in the description. You guys can copy and paste it and, have that to read yourself.
And such a fun little example of one word can drastically change the energetic expression. One word from to 4 to with, think how, I mean, just that subject alone, I could think about all day how. But anyway, let's jump on to something fun. So when Renaé read that to me, and Renaé and I are always in sync. She's, one of us opens a conversation, and it's so cool how life, and I know for me, has given me so many examples of, oh yeah, just like this happened in your life, and just like this happened in your life. So as she read that, as we are really, owning the paintbrush of our own life and creating our own life, life is happening with us. I had watched this YouTube interview, and I don't know the guy's name. If someone's really interested, I could bring it up. He spoke about brainwashing and psyop, and gave amazing examples of all the variables that are needed to successfully brainwash someone. Went back in history, and I mean, like a 2 hour, quite a fascinating conversation. But what really jumped out at me is, we are all brainwashed, and not to get all weirded out and jacked up about it. And he himself, even in the interview, said, if you don't think you are experiencing brainwashing on a daily basis, you're suffering the worst from being brainwashed, because media, I mean, there's agendas everywhere, from schooling to what we see on the news to, all of our platforms and systems of operating. They're all forms of brainwashing and what we choose to believe. A lot of people, if you're listening to us, think that this conversation is crazy, that we've lost our minds, that we're the ones that are brainwashed, we belong in a cult. And I would argue everything's a brainwashing of a sort. And isn't that so cool? And I had said to Renaé, like, I love using the phrase, oh, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. And of course, that references a cult analogy. But to be like, we're all drinking a Kool-Aid. I prefer this flavor. This is my flavor of Kool-Aid, and I love it, and I'm going to drink it. And you know what? Next week I might show up differently and switch flavors, because I know for me now, and it's been a road to get here, I am fascinated with intelligence of every sort. I'm fascinated with experience. I really think I'm doing a pretty good job, and try every day not to come from a place of judgment or criticism, but to be more fascinated with human behavior and human psychology and how it presents in our world. So anyway, that's
could tell it was just like other stuff's coming in and it's like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Well, you know what I think was important there, and when you said, all right, I'm gonna show up today for this is the Kool-Aid I'm drinking today, and I might show up differently tomorrow. That really goes into the whole aspect of feeling, and that's what we're inviting all the listeners to do, is start to feel what feels right. Even though this whole brainwashing is happening, or whatever, that's how the world has been forever, right? And it's like you were saying, Tracy, off camera, is there's all of this stuff going on over here. They're so good at allowing us to focus, here when all this is happening, because it's we're taking the energy and their focus off of what's really going on behind the scenes that they don't want us to really know. But if you were stopping and you were feeling different answers, what feels right to me, not what I've always done, what somebody else is telling me. This is the opportunity that is coming forward in the world for us to really wake up, and inviting us to feel what feels right, because that's going to set us free. And that's the whole point of you, Tracy. Okay, I'm showing up this way today, but tomorrow it might be a different way, because you're continually waking up. And I had said to Tracy off camera, that's what I love about her, is she's so aware in every single moment of her day. She really owns every single component, because every experience she has, she takes that into that opportunity to expand and to be aware and to own exactly what she's doing. It's, oh, yep, I know that's what it is. And what that's doing is you're opening up each and every component. Just like that channel thing said this morning, we have created this field of consciousness. And in this field, that's where we're inviting you to be. If what we're saying doesn't agree with you, or to stop and feel it. Is it that it doesn't agree with you because it's so foreign and it's something that isn't allowing you to grow and expand? Like, no, this is fearful for me, so I'm going to shut it down. They're crazy, they're wrong, whatever. Or does it not feel right because that's just not the consciousness you're in? Either way, it's okay and it's perfect. But what the powers that be and all that are saying is start to feel through your life, because that opens up your field and opens up a whole different consciousness that allows you to grow and expand and to start to go into the natural flow of life. And Tracy, you're so good at that, of going with that flow. And I don't know, I'm sort of putting you on the spot, but I don't know if you've got any stories or anything that you can share that aspect of it, of how easy things really start to go, or how things because you're just so aware. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I'm going to go kind of broad spectrum here. And I think this is I own businesses, and there's a lot of things. First of all, everything's getting revealed. There's been webs of corruption and greed and misinformation that are now starting to, dismantle, untangle, be revealed, which is beautiful. It's going to be chaotic, but it is definitely a freeing from all these, very restrictive systems and beliefs. So it's great, but there's going to be some, we're going to need to navigate through it. And it seems like more so now than ever that in the businesses, all of these restrictive measures are coming up, regulations. And this is the example that came to mind when you were talking about it. We're trying to build on a piece of land, and we got 2 notices to stop work immediately orders because the permit was not properly displayed. And so you have to concrete post it in, it has to be a glass box. It's such insanity. The insanity has gotten so bad that it's comical, because there's all these requirements and regulations that cost so much money and so much work, and they're for no effect. The only result is frustration and irritation, and everything gets slowed down. And I don't mean that negatively, but I saw it and now I laugh, because I can see the energy of it trying to brute force itself. And I just laugh, and I'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. And to watch the energetics, whereas I will say 6 months ago, I might have been the one saying, that's bullshit, brr, 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 brr. But to watch myself, not be triggered, but even furthermore, it's entertaining to me. Now I just have an entertaining story to share. And within that reaction, that energy coming at me, it fizzles away. So, and I love to every week, Renaé and I, get together. And Renaé, do I not have so many stories that it's ridiculous how this is really playing out. And I'm not saying that it's easy to get there. It's that, you hear these words all the time. We'll just stay neutral, be neutral, go in the void, 0 point. And they're very elusive words, but when you start to really understand them and play with them, and then all of a sudden you're experiencing life with them, delight is the word that I use every day. Oh my gosh, I just get to like be delighted. And someone would be like, well, how do you get delight from that? Like, that's so frustrating. We lose internet in the restaurants or stuff breaks. And I'm just like behind the scenes going, you know what I mean? Like, oh, isn't that fascinating? Of course, because you blew the circuit. And I don't mean the electrical circuit, I mean the energetic circuit of we are all trying, we want at some level, we want life just to keep going the same way. And here's the big news flash: everything's changing. It's not going to. So if you can ride the wave, and know, ooh, what twist and turn am I going to get today? I know I'm going to get knocked off kilter. How am I going to respond? And then you start to, I'm seeing roller coaster. And then you're anticipating, oh man, what doozy am I going to have to confront today? You show up with that energy of kind of delight, and you don't get your neck thrown out of whack. You just ride through it. So, and if there's any stories, because I told Renaé so many stories before we started filming, I'll retell one, but that is the big gist of you were working with life. And it depends, and sometimes you're going to be in a crappy mood. And guess what? There's going to be some crappy happenings in your day. And I reflect back and I'm like, oh, yeah, that one didn't go out so well. I guess, oh, well, there's always tomorrow.
That I think is so perfect in telling. And when you were telling the story, first I want to jump backwards a little, because Tracy has, if you haven't gotten them, you really should. And I'll have the link and I'll put it in the comments, and I'll put it in the description as well. But Tracy has these books that are just so easy to read and so perfect that I just want to show you like one page, because this has a point. Okay, so here are her books, right? This is the last one. Now, what's interesting is my sister has these books, and she had read the first one from front to back. She said, oh my God, resonated with me beautifully. And she then went to read the second one. And the second one, meaning she was trying to read them in exactly the way that Tracy had printed them. So the second one was called Listening. And she said, oh my God, I'm just having such a hard time doing that. Well, she finally came to the realization that she's got to skip that one and go to something else. Now, had she been listening and feeling what felt right, she would not have. And she's so good, by the way, at typically just doing things intuitively. So it was really sort of comical to me. I don't know that I laughed at her, but it was sort of comical. I was like, isn't that funny? She's so good at going with the flow. And yet she was, going in consecutive order. And then she finally realized, I've got to stop doing that, because it's not, I'm having such a hard time getting into just one little page. Now, let me just show you, just open up. That's it. Right? And then the next thing is something completely different. It's like a different, it's just, oh, I can, right? So they're these quick little things, but man, these are, and what my sister even said, Michelle said, oh my God, I love that she dates things, because you see these are written in whatever, 2018 or whatever. And she's so ahead of the game. Tracy's so ahead of the game. So had she been feeling what was right, she would have just probably just spread them out or whatever, and just automatically picked up what she needed to be. And maybe she didn't need to read the whole book. The first one, clearly she did, because she had no problem zipping through it. But that goes with anything and everything. Feel what feels right. It is so rare that I go through, a book, whatever, and finish a book, And yeah, Tracy's like, I will just like intuitively see, okay, what one do I need to pick up? And then, okay, what page do I need? And then sometimes after I do it, I said, what page do I need? Oh, clearly, whatever this one is. But what's interesting is then I might get another page, another whatever. Don't feel like you have, if you get a book, whether it's Tracy, somebody else's book, somebody else, anything, you are listening to something. Don't feel like you have to listen or read that from front to back. A lot of times you'll get what you need to get. First of all, everything has an energy, right? So it's inviting you into the field. If you purchase that, you've said, okay, I'm entering into this field. It's always going to shift and change you. Exactly what you were saying, Tracy, that every aspect of your life, you might be in a shitty mood. Crazy shit's going to happen that day. Oh, this isn't what I planned for. Don't look at this is what I planned for. What is shifting? What's changing? Every single thing they're saying is all about us getting out of what they're referring to as the human field, the human limitation, the human brainwashing, to expand, to look a little further, and to recognize, okay, I am the creator of this life. I am the one who is co-authoring this whole aspect together. So we're inviting you into a field of, do you want to like awaken a little more? Do you want to join into this field and stop looking at everybody else is doing this too? Everybody else is creating this, or the world is doing this. This is what the world's doing. I can't remember exactly how it was said there, but we're trained. Well, that's the world, and it's all in chaos, and we just have to deal with it. No, we are creating it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I tend to have a problem with when people are complaining about something in the world. Of, well, that's the way such and such is. It's like, no, but it's not. Like, why are you accepting that? Like, start to create what you want to create. And I was writing a little notes you're doing. So the energetic circuits, we are exactly what you said. We're blowing these energetic circuits. We have these an energetic field, like picture this field, like it's all these like lines going down, like across, and they're all how I used to see them, unless something was going on in your body. They're perfect lines, right? Perfectly straight lines. And what would happen if somebody had something off? I'd see like the line being, it's a wobbly line or it's off kilter or whatever it is. Well, then we can go back to an energetic cleaner or whatever, right? You go back and then they all straightened out. And I was like, oh, okay, that's good. Well, now what's happening is all of our lines, all the grids, they're just deteriorating because we can't have that. That's part of the old energy, the old field. All of our electrical alignments are being reshifted and reconnected into the new grids of where we're shifting. So if you're in between the two, if you're saying, okay, I'm in this old world and this is what I've done and I'm going to continue to go here. Well, unfortunately, the consciousness is already shifting you here, whether you're doing something or not. Okay, but if you're listening to this, clearly you're doing things. Okay, just in general, you wouldn't be here, right? So you're moving into this field over here. Well, if you keep jumping between, of course, life's going to be crazy because you're not making that decision. You're not truthfully feeling what feels right and what way you want to go. Because the truth is, you want to go here, but there's probably a fear saying, I can't go here because I don't know what's there. And it's pulling you back in. Well, in that, they're showing like this energetic pull, pulling you, back in your whole system being out of alignment and physically going through things. And that's what they're saying. The whole physical aspect is just the body releasing the old stuff and letting go of the fears of what they're referring to as the recycled beginning, if that makes any sense at all. And what, Tracy, you had a story. I don't know if you have one now or if you have anything for this, but what are you getting? Excuse me. I was hoping I was going to throw it to you first. But that's the same, the whole aspect. What do you have on all that? Anything, if I made any sense?
Yes, and absolutely. And I was thinking, okay, what's a good like real life way? Because I can obviously see it very clearly that, we're back to the magnetics, everything's changing, we're moving to a whole new system, all new architecture, internally and externally, our bodies are changing and our reality around us is going to change. So it's kind of an analogy. And how I see it is get out of a linear mind. Imagine if you're doing a complete, you have a home, okay? And you're going to build a brand new home. So you have two sets of blueprints. You have your old blueprints, right? Because we want to see where all the electric plumbing and all that is. But you're building a brand new home. So all new infrastructure, you're doing everything. So you could either totally bulldoze the old home, or you can systematically gut it, take down things and try and keep, what you're gonna maybe bring over. If anyone's remodeled anything, at the end of the day, you end up bulldozing the whole thing because it's really hard to convert, right? It's just not to be negative, but especially now and now to the energetic. So, but what I see is we do some days we're doing a renovation of a certain scenario. Pick a subject, whether it's your job or your relationship or your health. In some scenarios, you don't want to bulldoze the whole thing that day. Do a little strategic pre-planning of, am I making sense? Like we are creating a whole new structure, foundation. Our electrical grids are different. Our plumbing is different. And now imagine that in the body too. So I'm really playing, and it's so hard to describe. It's an and both right now. It is, we are not fully immersed in the new earth and the new energies. So we are kind of oscillating between the two. And every time I try and just dump full in the new earth, I usually get some sort of explosion. And, whether it's a physical explosion or a, explosion. So, and not bad, because once the dust settles, I'm like, whoa, I think that was worth it. But I hope I'm making sense here, because it's a lot to really comprehend and play with. And the more you play with it, the better you're going to understand it. And then you can play with it more in depth. And oh my gosh, I'm going to say it every episode. Does life start to get so fascinating, so fun? You roll through the punches, because I'll get the proverbial punch in the face and it doesn't hurt as bad. And I can come back up and I can laugh and I'll be like, oh my God, that was, why did I set myself up for that? So it's, everything is changing. Everything is changing. And we get to decide on not a daily basis, on a per second basis, how we're going to navigate through. And sometimes you go right in through the old energies. You stand right in the middle of them. Don't avoid them. Don't deny them. So I'll just pick a business situation because it's not as emotional. Because emotion is part of the thing. It's all part of the shift, the big shift. And sometimes I find I put myself right in the middle of a highly charged situation, and I kind of sit back and be like, okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to react? And I might lose my shit for 5 minutes to an hour, but I always find myself, okay, wait, let me reframe, reposition. Okay, now what are you going to do? I'll tell a quick story. I think I did tell you this, not to call it my businesses if anyone's watching, but we had a wedding, which we normally don't do on a property. It's on the water and everything goes great. And I could kind of was get a sensing, oh, this isn't going to go well. This is going to blow up. I can see all the things. So I went down and I got on my managers and really set the tone of, this isn't going to play out well. And then an hour later, I went back and I went, you know what? Let me rewrite that. It's going to go great. It's going to be beautiful. Let's make their day. Everything's going to flow. Well, guess what? Within 3 hours, every manager came back to me. This sucks. Bah, bah. So I knew things were going to blow up. And I won't go into all the details. They are hysterical of the things. Well, I'll just give you one, because I'm in Florida. You cannot bring booze into a business. It's illegal. They wanted to bring their own booze in and have us buy it from them. Like, we could lose our liquor, like the insanity of it just, they did so much stuff, sprinkling fake rose petals all in the sand by the water. I'm like, who's going to clean all that up? But anyway, so it didn't turn out well. It did explode. And the fun thing was, everyone on property learned, they were like, oh, we see what you were talking about. So I wanted to, and I'm not telling you something negative. I'm saying a story that could be construed as negative. I came out knowing what was going to happen, tried to rewrite it and paint a positive spin. That positive spin did not pan out, but the end story was, oh, look how expansively everyone got to see the dynamics that were brought to the table. Did I go way? I know I do that, but I like to give examples of no, that didn't turn out to be a beautiful, and actually it was a gorgeous day. They got married. There was a lot of beauty in it, but there was also all these mini implosions that at the end of the day were beautiful for everyone to see and witness.
What I love about that story is you were rewriting the story. So it's showing us that how when we say, okay, you know what? Nope, I'm rewriting this. And when it doesn't rewrite the way you thought it was, you have to be in that frame of mind to be able to see it from the other perspective. Look at how wonderful everybody else saw what she knew and what she saw was going to happen. But they learned from that and they started to realize and recognize. I'm sure there was a lot of changes, a lot of shifts then made because they now saw. Because Tracy, you didn't take over and do what you used to do. It's like, okay, I'll figure this out. I'll do it and do that whole aspect. You let them experience what they needed to experience, and you stayed pretty disconnected because I think when you were telling me the story, I think it was that point like you were just sort of like stood back like in that calm, like, okay, see what happens. Like it wasn't, you weren't vested. You're like, okay, I rewrote it. You rewrote it for yourself. So they weren't coming to you. There's, oh my God, look what's happening. How am I going to fix this? They were able to fix things themselves and learn from that without you being the one, all right, yep, no, I'll take care of it. You created this, but I'm going to take care of it. So you have to be willing to be able to step back. It's okay, I'm going to rewrite this. If it doesn't rewrite the way you think, you have to look at it from another perspective. Okay, wait a minute. What was the good here? Because they always say there is always, every single thing is happening in this perfect field of us moving forward to stop us from holding back and staying in that old field of existence. That's the way it is. The world is imploding on itself from an energetic point to be able to step into the new world, the new way of being, the new way of doing things. And it is nothing like the old way, even so much as the conversation. And I'm sure, if you're aware of having the conversation that you're doing or the words aren't coming or whatever, it's recognizing, well, sometimes these don't have words. It's a feeling. And if you say to somebody, feel this, just stop and feel this to see if you feel, because I don't know the word. I can guarantee you, if they're willing to do that, they'll feel what's being said. And because words are just words, quite honestly. We've attached a lot of different meanings to them, and I'm offended because you said this, or like, that's just so much bullshit. Like, it's just a freaking word. Feel what is actually happening there. And the most important thing in that, which I don't know how it ties into there, but they keep saying it, is stop trying to make the old stuff work. It doesn't work. They're saying so many people are holding on to the energy of this job or this relationship or this car or whatever it is, all these things, because, well, this used to be good for me. I used to love this. This is the way it should work. This should work because, and they say, no, everybody and everything is growing and expanding. Exactly what you said, Tracy. The foundation of everything is it's leaving. The whole energetic, everything is being completely changed and shifted. And I'm not saying we're taking this and we're rewriting it, so we're reconfiguring. No. It is like totally new. So as all of this is dissolving and crumbling into a new field, because how everything like comes down, then all of a sudden here comes the new. So this is crumbling into a new field. As this field, and I'm just seeing all these like bricks or whatever, they're not even bricks or whatever, like all these stones like falling. But now when I'm looking down at here, it's not crumbled rock, it is ashes. And those ashes now, remember the elements of the world, right? All the elements are coming into play now. So the elements blowing everything over here, and then I see the water, I see the fire, I see the earth, everything coming into play and like swirling around and coming, I'm getting chills, and coming up into this new field of freaking awesomeness. So never think that you're losing something. Just go, okay, look, I'm ready. I'm ready to go here to see this and to move forward in this way. You had to have been getting the visual too, because I love your stuff when you get that.
Yeah. So, and what I wanted to point out there is, especially if you're listening to these, you might be the one that's being called or can be very significant in there's so much benefit and power perhaps in allowing others to see the dismantling. So in the example that I said, and this happens a lot in my life, and I'm so grateful that I'm aware of how I can be kind of a steward to let people see it by holding a stable field for it to happen. So with that crumbling of the brick, if we just rewrite it and say, well, why can't it be easy? I'm going to take this scenario and I'm done with this. So I'm just going to jump right into this new vision, this new how I want it to be, my dream desire. Well, all the players involved, there's such value in allowing them to see the dismantling, to see that the old energy crumbling to allow the new to come in. And if you find yourself in circumstances where could be conceived is, oh my God, it's all falling apart around me. Awesome. You hold the field. You be the one that knows what's happening, that's holding this powerful stability and resilience for everyone else to witness the crumbling. Because it's not bad. It's not bad at all. We can perceive it as bad. We can put ourselves in a position that there will be some great uncomfortableness in it, but it's so beyond words at this point. So hopefully we're conveying what is happening, because oh boy, if again, to hold the field of stability, to allow others to see the dismantling, to see the crumbling with this unbelievable, unshakable inner knowing of it is not only necessary, unavoidable, but making the space for something so much better. So I believe that if you're listening to this, that is one of your superpowers that you will be doing. I'm not even going to say you can, I'm going to say you will be doing it. You'll be holding that amazing field of strength for everyone around you.
Absolutely. I love that. And I've got these pictures behind me. I've always got small ones here on my thing. And when you were saying that and talking about the whole field, the visual I got was of this one. Like, see how, like, we're coming down, because they're saying this is everybody. This is everybody, and like how everything, like it's almost like the DNA and the whole structuring of everything coming up into and then expanding out. This is that new energy, the new field. This has the electrical alignment in it. It has all of the DNA restructuring. They're saying it has the whole field of true consciousness for our next leg of this journey. And like, see how it's like all expanding out, right? And then see this line that goes across here. They're saying that line is the energetic intelligence that is behind the structuring. So it's, moving forward. And as it's moving forward, it's going out, like now as it coming out, moving forward into the world, it's also the intelligence of all that is. So it's going out into this field. I thought I pulled this one into the field. Oh, okay. Into the field, and see how it spirals around. And then everybody in that entire existence, in that experience of, feel these. If you, want to hold these and feel the energy field of them, they're actually amazing. And then they said, then also what then happens is the whole world comes out, and see how the whole world is shining out and how it's expanding out into a whole other consciousness of all that is. The different planetary systems, the DNA, the structuring, all the different codes out there, which then they said turns into, this is you in the middle. And you expand out and see how it's almost like a halo effect going on, but see how it's connecting up even further in there. But they're saying, so these visuals will help you not only expand your consciousness, but expand the entire field. But they're giving you that field and that wisdom and that knowledge of not only feel these, but see what's happening. If you need that visual, they're saying, picture this, picture you being this, and every aspect of everyone and everything being the same, the exact same as this. Everyone you come in contact with, whether you see the light or not, that's what they are. And sometimes it's clumped up in different energetic fields when they're trying to make things work, or they're trying to stay in the field because this makes more sense to me to stay in this job, or this makes more sense because I think I'm going to be making more money for the business if I do this. And it doesn't really end up working out. And then what ends up happening is all of that other stuff just implodes into a new energy. They're saying, don't look at things as now being completely disingenuous. They're saying, look at everything now as everything is a genuine light. And we just have to get beyond that, the mind washing that it's not. We have to, have this be removed. And they're saying when it removes, it literally, like you might made my hand, I just saw like little ashes going down into that and then coming back anew. And again, every time it comes back anew, it's that visual they're giving me in this conversation. So it's that whole aspect of just remember, everything is of light. We have to go into that to see the light. If you're not seeing the light, just ask, let me go deeper. Let me go there. Let me see this light, or give me an example of this light. Your body knows. Your body sees it. Your body is doing things to help you awaken. If you've got, a sickness or whatever, talk to it. What does it want? What is it lacking that it knows, like, hey, I'm going to give a little example to this human that's running this body to help me move forward and to work together. Your body wants to thrive. So have the conversations, feel what feels right. And hopefully that will make sense. What do you got, Trace?
That's been a lot. The only thing I would add is I find myself asking the question, why? So we're looking at all those amazing images, and kind of it's like, how do we access that? How do we allow our DNA to change? So that's a big question, and there's a lot of, answers there. But what I find myself saying, not only to myself, but now to others, why? Like everything we believe, everything, well, I have to work. Why? To pay bills. Well, why do you pay bills? Well, so I can, have shelter and water. And, well, why do you think you need that? Well, because that's how we live. Of course, we have houses over our head. Well, why? So we're, protected from the elements. Well, but why do you need, such a big house? Or I love the questions of, how much of our money is spent on, insurance or medical things, or my favorite, vanity? Well, why do you have to have your hair done once a month? Well, because it makes me feel pretty. Well, why do you want to feel pretty? So I, have joy. So I feel good about myself. Well, why do you think that the hair is the one thing that, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a fun game. And I'm going to throw my husband under the bus with business questions. Well, why? Well, we need to do this and, or tax advantages. Why? Like it frustrates the hell out of people, because here's my big point. So much of what we do is nonsensical. If you really get to the bottom of why, well, why do we put our kids in school, through grades 12? Why do we do that? Well, because that's what everyone does. Well, do you think it's working? Well, why do you think it's working? Or why do you think it's not working? Every kid should go to college. Why? It's so fun. And I'm not being negative. I'm invoking thought. And by the way, thanks for the plugs on all my books, because all my books are musings, like questions, what if and why? And can we think outside those seemingly restrictive, like, why does a book have to have numbers? Why do you have to read it front to back? Why do you like, why? And you can start to really irritate people, which is super fun, because we do a lot of things that make no sense, because historically that's what we were told to do, or that's how we were told it works. And when you start digging deep, you get to a point that you just start laughing. Like, this is hysterical. Look, and I always say, I call it the alien perspective. Like, they have such a fun time because they get to watch us do all these nonsensical, crazy things in the name of some elusive thing that's like we're chasing this thing. Whereas if we just like be, which I know when I say things, when I even say it, because I'm like, shut up, stop saying those catchy phrases of, well, just be, what does that mean?
Right. Well, and I love
So,
that. Wait, Trace, because it's like, think of yourself as, if you can remember that, like, but why? Think of yourself as a 2-year-old child. Don't they always be why? And if I just because that's the way it is. Is that
and
it?
what do we do? We just crush the magic right there. Perfect example. Great job crushing the magic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead. Did it, because you were gonna say something else. Did that throw you off?
No, I try and find humor in everything, even the really like the rat trap that we find ourselves racing in. You're like, isn't that interesting? Totally chasing my trail in a rat trap. What are we gonna do about that? Dissolve the rat trap. What's that? It's some movie that she was stuck in a water tank, and it was like, don't try and get out. Just remove the walls of the water tank. Like, these are the things that are so fascinating to think about.
Yeah. I,
Okay, I think I went way off there,
no,
but
I don't think so because it all tied in. Like my sister Michelle said, you guys always think you're going off, but it all ties in. It's all perfect. So, so it's perfect, and that's how conversations go. We're having these conversations, and they always are, all over the place. But I agree. Like, just think of yourself as a 2-year-old child, and I mean, sometimes you would say like this, that's the way it is. But aren't you a little more patient with that 2-year-old child? So just ask yourself why? Because the more, what they were saying is, the more we're asking the whys, the more as a consciousness we're breaking that consciousness down. Okay, so maybe say why, and even if you don't come up with an answer, like, okay, well, I'm not gonna, well, this isn't gonna change or whatever. They're saying asking the question, you're moving into a new field. Moving into that new field of consciousness is allowing the old consciousness to then start to just shed itself of all of the old and allow the light to shine. And then they show the light zooming over to here, which is probably like that one picture, right? Zooming over to here, and then that line zooming out into all that is, and in all ways. And that's really the key. They're saying the more we question, even if you don't get an answer, they're saying the more you question, the more you will awaken, the more you will begin to remember. There's nothing that we're doing that isn't, like, if you go to a reader or do an energy count, whatever, everything that we're doing is helping us remember who we are. It's a matter of, are you going to step into the field of, okay, well, this is just the way it always has worked, and this is the way it is, or are you going to step into, okay, I'm going to ask this, and I'm going to step over here, I'm going to just go a little outside my comfort zone, then a little more, because then it gets easier and easier and easier. And I think since you threw your husband under the bus, I'm going to throw mine under the bus, which, again, we're throwing them under in good ways.
yeah.
It's that point of, my husband will not do anything, like if you go to the doctors or the hospital, whatever, but well, what am I signing? And the bank opening an account. What am I saying? He sits there, he reads every little thing. There's like, no, yeah, I don't agree with this. And they're always like, well, that's the way it always is. That's what we'll cross it off. I'm not going to sign this unless, instead of them saying, well, then don't open an account, or well, then we can't treat you, or whatever it is. They're like, oh, okay, I guess. And then he makes them cross it off, and they initial it, and he moves on. But how often do we do that? How often do we go places before we got our house? He asked for all the documents beforehand so that he had a week to read them, because he was not going to sign anything. And then anything that he didn't like, he would just send back, nope, I need this crossed out. You know what? He got every single one of them. Like, when do you ever hear of that? Usually the banks are like, oh, nope, it's this and that. Too bad, then we're not going to give you a mortgage. He got every single aspect. Ask, question, do things. You're putting yourself in a whole new field, and you're telling your system, all right, I'm listening to you. I'm going to allow our light to come out and move us into a new consciousness, or just move us into a new awareness. You're remembering everything, because everything that we need to know is inside of us. We're just peeling off the layers to get back into that light. What do you got? That's all I got.
I'm just going to wrap it up by saying everything's happening so fast and we're moving in a beautiful direction. And you can kind of, take the not as aware route because I do think, the yous and I's, we're kind of carving the way. We're doing a lot of the excavation work and the reclaiming work, which could be construed as it is. It can get chunky and clunky and it can be a lot of work, but you see so much more. I know for me, I pick the route and the ride of, the off-road, carving the way. So if you find yourself on that path, there's so much goodness in it too. And if you don't, take the luxury route of, the air conditioned, meal served to you. I'm probably out there scrapping in the heat trying to eat a bug, but both are good. It's kind of how you want to experience this life. But kind of like how what you were just saying, like, gosh, there's so many questions to be asked, and you can rewrite it every day, and it doesn't matter which way you're rewriting it, really.
Mhm.
It's just, I know the adventurous route is the one I love. And you do get to see, it's like seeing all the behind the scenes. Because in 5 years, we're all going to be like, how did we get here? How did this happen? And we will know because we were watching the energies and stewarding them behind the scenes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and they even said, like, by the end of this year, we're going to be amazed what happens. But, they're right now saying just be very conscious and very aware of what you're saying, what you're thinking. There's a lot of changes happening in the world, and get on board with the aspect. If you're thinking, well, I don't want this to happen, or I'm going to fight this, ask yourself why. Why are you fighting it? Is it because that's the way it's always happened? Because why wouldn't you want? They're asking to say, why? Look at your world. Look at what's changing. Look at what people are fighting the most for, and ask yourself, why don't I want this? Because a lot of it, they're saying, if you really feel with your body, with your soul, with every ounce of you. Notice they're not saying heart, by the way, okay? So you're really feeling with it, you're going to recognize this is good. This is for the highest and best good of all of humanity. So I say, remember, you are co-creating your world. If you stop fighting and you put your energy to the power and the light, because remember the light has won, you will be amazed at what happens. And not only you, yourself, but your world.
And I'm going to add the specific on that because I've had this conversation with multiple people lately because I have seen and known for years that sickness, illness, and disease is on its way out. There's going to be so many amazing technologies, discoveries that are actually have been already existed, but they're going to be revealed. This is amazing stuff. And I am fascinated how many people tell me that's crazy, that's not going to happen. And I always say to them, choose wisely because you are creating your own reality. And if you keep fighting against a reality that there is no more disease, you're telling the universe, I'll keep taking the disease. Or so choose wisely and don't get stuck in an old narrative that the opportunity to break free of that is right here. It is wide open. And I get it, like how we've been schooled in history but I'm just further accentuating what you say because I'm kind of shocked at how many people around me say stuff and I'm like, do you want listen to what you're saying? Why would you not want, autism to not even exist in a year or two? Like, I don't understand how you could not want that to be a reality. Um, and these are big things, not to end it on I don't call this a heavy note. I call this a, this is stuff is important because it's important of what you choose and what you're saying. And, we have such amazing power. And again, the word power, there's nothing negative in it. Yes, there's abused power everywhere, but we should embrace our power. And yeah, trust me, I bring it every day um, in ways that are for, I'm for humanity. I'm for the collective. I'm for the earth.
Well, and it's not like you said, it's not a heavy note. It's an awakened and an aware note. Like you said, choose wisely. Like start to really think and feel. because things that are happening in the world, we are creating. So what energy are you putting out? Every single thing that is happening in this world. And, Tracy, you said this before, we can have the exact same experience and come out with two totally, totally different views on it. So, when you're looking at things, just start to open your mind to a new way of looking at things, or stepping out of the consciousness of the collective. Now, we're all in a consciousness of collective, they're saying, but we're in different collective fields. So if you're, seeing something and you're like, I'm going to fight for this, you're fighting for the old. And I think that goes where they were saying, stop trying to make the old work. I think that's what, they were referring to, or they're saying it's much bigger than that too, but saying start to recognize and realize that if I'm fighting for something, I'm fighting for the old typically. Because if you were moving into the consciousness of what they're saying new, and they're using the quotation of new, because everybody thinks we're going to new, it's really the old, it's really the true you. They're saying you're fighting for that. There's no fight. It just is. It just happens very easily, very effortlessly, because you've got the right energy. You don't have to fight for anything. You have to quietly put the energy of the consciousness there, the whole field there. This is what it is. This is the world I'm living in. And there's many times where I'll see something unfolding and I'm like, oh, no, that's not the world I'm living in. No, that's not going to happen. And then I literally sort of shift my body a little. I'm like, yeah, this is where I am. And I'll put the energy there because I don't even want to stand in that field that I was standing there. That's why I shift a little to give my body that thing as well. But they're saying, be very conscious and be very careful. And I love that, Tracy, choose wisely because it's your world, your life. What are you choosing?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I think that's a great wrapper up point.
Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you so much for being here today. If you liked this, and certainly hit the subscribe. If you think somebody else can join in this energy and field, share it with them. And we'll see you next time.
Choose wisely.